Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello,
and
how are you doing?
Happy holidays to everyone. And welcome to our first 2021 Climate Smart Conference on Regenerative Education for Future Generations. So I am basically a very humble, chemical engineer and a food scientist. I got my basic education in Karachi from Dawood University of Engineering and Technology, got my master's from Wayne State University, diversified into food science and got PhD in food science from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Loved, USA, and then I was really blessed, to spend my vacation and did some postdoctoral work in the most beautiful part of our planet, which is Nova Scotia, Canada. So after acquiring all this wonderful experience in North America, my mother asked me that enough of North America, now we miss you in Pakistan, so come back. So I said, good, Mom, I'm here, So I took my mom's advice and came to Pakistan, and then started up Procter & Gamble in Pakistan. And that was like a, re-engineering of my complete education, because, these companies, they don't care what you came up with. They train you again, okay, to now you are, our person, becoming a P&G person now. So I got, I was groomed into a P&G manager, and all the skills and everything, which I had was sort of fine-tuned so I can perform for PhD and make billions and trillions for them. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. Okay. And then after giving my prime time to the multinationals, I decided that enough of, employment, and now let's start entrepreneurship. So then, I started this company. I served as the Associate Professor of Industrial Engineering and Management at Institute of Business Management, where one of my MBA students actually challenged me and said that, Mufaddal, all the things which you are teaching in lecture hall is not applicable in real world. So, you take us to heaven when you are in the lecture room, but outside your lecture room, we are all in hell, So nothing is applicable. So that was a kind of a very rough, kind of a comment a student gave me, and I almost gave him an F, and he says, Mufaddal, I gave you the F, you give me whatever you want to give me, because, I gave you the fact and you got angry. And now you are giving me an F. So I gave him an opportunity to defend himself. Okay, I gave him 10 minutes in that Viva, and I said, okay, prove your point. And he proved his point. He told me about myself, which I didn't know. So this is the beauty of students, doing research.
And what was that?
Well, where I was born, how I was born, what I have been doing, and, all the kind of stuff. He was thorough in terms of, doing research on me. And then he made a point. He said, Mufaddal, you just relax, enjoy, your life, give your CV to me, and I will make billions for you. So I said, well, wonderful, man. You made a point. So let's start the company. So next day, the company was formed. So Total Quality Life Maintenance Association in Institute of Business Management got transformed into TQLMA. Okay, and then after that, the beauty of everything was that after I started, this entrepreneurship journey, I was really very, very fortunate to meet Professor Susinski, because, this is entrepreneurship. Now I was, talking to dairy farmers, and I was talking to, re-engineering the dairy sector of Karachi. Basically, 10 million liters of milk being sold in Karachi. And as a food scientist, I thought I'm really a, miserable kind of a person if I'm not doing anything to re-engineer this sector, because it is causing cancer to all the mothers and all the ladies, of our planet. They drink milk. Again, milk is everybody's requirement. So I started that process and, of re-engineering that industry. And then, the largest dairy farmer That's how we got associated. And, Bill gave me a challenge that fine, let's do that. Let's transform all that waste into something of value, And the first contract I signed was with the Sin Dairy Farm, a farm of 200 acre with 10,000 heads of animal. Okay, a very, very large farm. Okay, and a very innovative person. So, but then, again, Karachi is a very challenging city. Pakistan is a very challenging country. And because of all the security concerns and reasons, Energime University couldn't come to Karachi, to do the project. And then there was a constraint of, kind of financing. We almost arranged the finance from, from a foreign, German banks, etc. And this gentleman said, no, I don't like any bank finance. I would like to do, Islamic finance. So that was another constraint. So I said, well, good. So now, we will do Islamic finance and we will do, everything you want us to do. So I respected, the client's, desires, because I want to delight my clients, and to see what they want us to do. So that led us to this wonderful facility, Garg Dairy Farm, which we selected at that time, that since, Energime cannot come to Karachi, then, we should actually build a facility in Texas. Texas is very similar to Karachi. So let's build a facility there, and all those 50,000 plus engineers of Pakistan Engineering Council and everyone else who is interested in, climate smart education will be trained in that facility. So that's a journey which I've described. And then, along the way in these 2-3 years, all the wisdom has been provided to me by Mr. Susinski. Every time I interact with him, I learn. He's a wonderful kind of a person, always challenges everybody. He has challenged me and, asked all the difficult questions. And along the way, we tried to find the answer. And then we are really very, very fortunate to have, Lloyd Halferty with us, who is a super challenger, basically, So he challenges everything, which we try to do, and give us a lot of knowledge and information and put us on the right track. And now we are very, very fortunate, very, very recently, and thanks to Lloyd, that now we know Stephanie. And Stephanie is a wonderful person who is, a mother who is interested in really educating all the mothers to be super mothers. So I think with that brief introduction, about our journey up until this point, I will hand over the, the platform to Professor Susinski to, talk about his journey and his plan, basically, because I've introduced everybody now. So now the next step would be that he will be talking about how he plans to re-engineer, the planet in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you very kindly, Mufadal. Those are very, very wonderfully sweet and generous words, and appreciated. Energime University, of which I'm the founder and president, is an entity that was formed to try to create a strategy and methodology for changing our current direction as to how we expand society, add population, while maintaining our resources and eliminating our unintended negative impacts on the environment that we all depend on for our sustenance and for all the life that lives on this planet. I always tell people, and there's a million ways to start this particular part of the conversation, but I would say this: everybody's concerned about climate change, everybody's concerned about food that's running out, water that's no longer available, certainly potable water, the amount of waste that we're creating into the environment, the amount of destruction we're doing to ecosystems. And I would tell you that all of these things that we're concerned about are symptoms. They are not the cause of the problems that we face. And unfortunately, everybody's dealing with trying to solve the symptoms without getting to the base reason, the core issue as to why we're having all these problems, which is very simple to understand, but very, very difficult in terms of addressing, because it requires a project and requires an effort that's unprecedented in human history. Our major problem are human beings. Human beings do not know how to work together or live on a planet where we have 7.5, 8 billion, soon to be 9 billion people whereas we can manage our resources and manage the way that we expand our population in such a way where we're creating greater prosperity for people, but not at an absolutely catastrophic cost to the environment, to other life species that we support on this planet, our biodiversity, and certainly the health of our environment. And because of that, particularly in places like, Eastern Asia, where you have the majority of the global population, you see cities that are turning into cancer cities, where the pollution is overwhelming the population. You have places right now in China where I think half of the major cities, people are getting cancer before the age of 50 years of age. And we are killing ourselves, we are killing the planet. And climate change, I would tell you, is just Mother Nature's way of reacting to the tremendous damage that we're doing. But we have a superpower that people, and most people, tend to forget about. Human beings are the one animal that is able to anticipate the future by understanding what our actions are going to do in the future, and to be able to start to plan in advance how we're going to avoid some of the worst challenges that we're going to face. I mean, if you knew you were running towards a cliff, you would stop before you went over the edge of the cliff. However, economically speaking, we don't have that sensibility. As we build societies, we do not employ that sensibility. As far as we're concerned, the competition that's involved with economic growth and individual prosperity is driving us to suicide. We are overutilizing our resources to the point where we'll extinguish them. We're destroying all of the life forms on the planet that we share the planet with, where right now many people may not value the biodiversity, but I would tell you that it is the single most valuable thing that we have on this planet. If you were traveling through outer space and you came to our planet, the first thing that you would be impressed with is the millions of different types of life forms that have grown here and that have found little spaces and niches by which they've gone on to evolve. I mean, we evolved from very, very simple organisms years ago. And truthfully, I don't think we have the right to stop the evolutionary tracks of literally millions of species out there that we have no idea what they're going to evolve into. The point of the matter is this, though. In order for us to solve our problems requires a couple of basic concepts that we have to initiate, and it all comes down to education. How do we create a generation of human beings that understand the challenges that we'll face in the future, that understand and have a grasp of the different types of technologies, applications, and protocols that will allow us to create economic development, expand our societies, and add population, but do it in such a way where we're no longer damaging the environment, reducing our biodiversity, or extinguishing the very resources that we need to survive. Now, when we're talking about climate change and we're talking about all these other issues that we face, the most immediate threat to our population is starvation. And I know for many people that live in the West, they can go into a supermarket that is laden with every conceivable type of food. There are restaurants all over the place. And no one can think of the fact that very, very shortly, we're going to start to endure the same type of starvation that is starting to pop up in places in Africa and Asia, where food is no longer plentiful and people are actually starving to death. They know what's coming for us, but we don't know what's coming for us. The issues that we will have to face that are not just climate change, we're talking about things like phosphorus, which I think most people are oblivious to. It's a necessary element that is critical in creating fertilizer, which supports over 90% of global agriculture. We've got about 30 years left of phosphorus, which is recyclable, but we're not recycling it. And if we don't recycle it, and we don't put those systems in place very, very shortly, global agriculture will collapse by mid-century. Our oceans will be empty by mid-century. This is something hard for people to conceive of, but our ability to support our population is going to hit a wall by mid-century unless we drastically redo the way we raise food, and more particularly, as I was saying before, educate this current population. However, the mechanisms for doing and providing that education and knowledge are out there. We know what to do. At least the education and scientific community understands different aspects of how we create the food we need, how we maintain our resources, how we prepare for resilience with climate change, how we clean up the damage that we're doing to the environment, even though what we've done, we're not going to be able to fix in one generation, probably not in 10 generations, but at least we can start the process. But the idea is this: unless we can get that education system, and this is something that Energime has been putting together for many years, and we have an education platform called Sustainable Planet, which we intend on getting into every school on the planet by the end of the decade. It is an experiential education program that will be available to every student in every school at no charge, which will teach them the basics of sustainable economic development. What technologies, applications, and protocols can be used, how to plan city development, how to maintain your environment, how to collaborate, most importantly, with your neighbors to maintain our resources. And the entire concept really comes down to a basic respect of every human being on the planet, understanding that education is a human right and should be provided for every human being on the planet at no cost. That opportunity is a human right. And we can create an economic model that allows for that. Not socialist, not communist, but a capitalist model where people can still become wealthy, but it will be a byproduct of their contribution and their productivity, not their ability to be able to essentially take advantage and overutilize the resources and take advantage of populations for cheap labor, which I think is the wrong way to go about it. We are running out of time. Those systems of economic development are obsolete. And at this point, I would tell you that the global economic strategy is essentially rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and people are looking for higher berths on a ship that is sinking. And we need to stop this mentality and start creating a ship that can actually float. And that'll happen once we start collaborating. I think our best opportunity to do this is with the young people. Most people over the age of 25 and full brain development are too opinionated and view all information through pre-existing prism of knowledge and opinion, and they won't change unless something catastrophic happens. Young people, however, are very brave. If we can concentrate particularly on developing curriculum for K through 12, and then concentrating on 14 to 18-year-olds before they enter college, before they enter the workforce, I think that over the next 10 to 15 years, we can get an entire generation of human beings coming into the workforce in areas of administration and leadership, which can help redirect investment, can strategize and create the methodology for investment. Because every region of the world, although we all need food and water, we all create waste and we require energy and we want to live in a healthy environment. How you manage that in a place like Karachi is very different from how you do that in New York, or how you would do that in Lagos, or how you would do that in Cape Town, South Africa. Every place has different environmental and climate realities. Every place has different infrastructure. Certain places are much more developed with infrastructure that you have to remanage. Other places you can build from scratch. But the idea is this: our system of change will only occur when we learn how to collaborate and cooperate. It is going to require a centralized education system that is uniform across the planet. Not that what we teach won't be specific to the regions that we go into, but the general ideas of how we collaborate, cooperate, and plan for the future must be unified on a global scale. That's what Energime University is about. We're working with the UN, we work with Microsoft, we're working with IBM, and we are creating what we feel is going to be the most advanced education model in human history. And we welcome the participation of everyone out there that can contribute. This is not something that we're doing on our own. This is something that we're doing through a global network of collaboration with organizations, governments, scientists, and educators, business people. I could go on: engineers, architects, city planners, all of whom have wonderful ideas to share. And once we can open up that conversation on a global scale to tens of millions of students per year, for them to share their ideas, to share their vision of how that change needs to occur in their village, in their country, in their region, on their continent, we'll start to see change occur at a rate that's unprecedented in human history. And ultimately, this is about human evolution. We are about to hit the evolutionary wall for our species. Are we going to find the wisdom to get past this and to be able to create a better human society for future generations? Or are we going to devolve back into a dark age? And it really is that clear a choice. Thank you, Mufaddal. I've said what I want to say for my speech. I appreciate the time.
I just want to add one statement. All the organizations which Professor Sosinski just mentioned, SAM's TQLMA Global has the ability as a gold and diamond miner to enhance their budget by 5+%, so they can actually do their projects comfortably. And then all our engineers, which will be trained by Professor Sosinski and Energime University, will be learning lean engineering also, so that we can reduce the operating cost of the projects also. So these are some of the additional benefits which our group can provide. With that one short comment, I would hand over the podium to Professor Stephanie, who is a professor, of multiple disciplines. And and you are seeing Maui Aloha project, a beautiful place in Hawaii, where she would like to demonstrate all these things to the world. So over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be with all of you. And right now I am in Maui, Hawaii. Usually I'm in Toronto, Canada. But our Maui Aloha project is in Maui, Hawaii, and we're having meetings regarding this eco-village initiative. I'm in my final year of my doctoral studies at the University of Toronto, OISE, the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, and I connect and collaborate to this group and many others through the lens of education. And this particular conference is about climate action and the climate crisis that we're trying to systemically suggest to all children, all communities, all people around the world, that we need to take action regarding the planet and its wellness or unwellness. And one of the lenses that I particularly focus on is when we talk about well-being and wellness, I'm focusing on communities and the individual, the climate and the wellness of children, for instance, in the world right now, is at a staggering low or all-time high regarding anxiety, depression, suicide. In fact, Canada has one of the highest youth suicide rates in the world, which is not something that we should be boasting about, a Western affluent country. But also pre-COVID, the numbers around the world for youth anxiety, depression, suicide, and whatnot were very, very high. And now through COVID, they're talking about the numbers doubling and quadrupling. It's very serious. And so why do I connect all of this? Well, I've worked a lifetime with children and women and communities in diverse living and learning environments. I'm a learning and community design consultant, which brought me to Maui Aloha Project Eco-Village Initiative, which is basically about coming together for housing and food security, but also for social relations and social and emotional well-being, to name a few of the reasons why we should come together. For it's easier to share resources, to share a car, share a lawnmower, share a blender, than for each of us to have our own. And especially in this time where we see all over the world increasing housing and food insecurity, and we know what's to come regarding how we've damaged the climate and depleted its resources and continue to deplete its resources without a plan. And so we need to be unified globally. We need to suggest to children systemically, to the school systems, from young children, that the systems, the food systems practices from seed to table, children must be learning. Through COVID, especially, we've seen that the schoolhouse is actually obsolete. 3 generations know the schoolhouse, more than 100 years know the schoolhouse, but instantly, in a snap of a finger, everybody was brought to their schooling into their homes, whatever those spaces looked like. And whenever I speak to parents about the past 2 years, they're concerned about their children's well-being. They're concerned that their children don't even see the light of day anymore, don't even get a breath of fresh air for their solely online. And beforehand, even with the schoolhouse, kids were sitting all day indoors in artificial air, usually in most parts of the world. And we know that this is not good for children's health. And we also know that by sitting in these artificial spaces, children are not connecting to the natural spaces, to the planet, to the earth. Even in Hawaii, which most people around the world know and picture to be a Garden of Eden, school children don't even walk barefoot on the grass or on the soil, even here. And we know that those kinds of things, when we engage with the natural world, build our immunities. Right now is the time when we need to have built up stronger immunities. So moreover, I'm also a co-founder and co-director of the Global Unity Network and the Unity Learning Networks, which are a response to these times right now. We're building a global network where to address the purposes of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so that we can communicate practical food systems learning. We can share and involve children in hybrid models of online and face-to-face interactions with food systems learning, and that can be shared and showcased globally. COVID has brought the communication globally to amazing ease, where we can all talk no matter where we are in the world, and we always were able to, but now it's been introduced en masse through the schools. And so a child on one continent with the same can communicate, even from building gardens, putting gardens in their home, on their windowsill, in their backyard, or on their school property, or in a local park. They can teach how to go to community members or community businesses, how to access resources to create these kinds of gardens, and they can learn food systems, not only to make their own family's food bill lower, not only to bring sustainable food into their own family home, but also when these children grow up and to become heads of their families, they'll have these systems under their belt. It seems as though so many of the parents and families are concerned only right now with what is my child not missing, how they're not getting the same learning that they usually get. And in the same breath, they are concerned about their child's well-being, as I mentioned, bags under their eyes from darkness, being indoors and on screens too many hours, headaches, and not socializing. These are things that are essential. Being able to interact with one another, with communities, and my particular lens of education looks at holistic well-being, not just what we're learning in school, which is important, but also, that's a whole other conversation for tomorrow. But the well-being, the social emotional well-being, the nutritional well-being, the spiritual well-being, ecological well-being, and environmental well-being, to name a few, not only of the individual, of the child, but of the community and of the planet. So I connect to everybody here, trying to create, as we can create these networks so that children and communities and schools can communicate with each other in sharing these very important practices for the survival of the planet, for food security. And I look forward to holding hands with all of you and others as we progress through, really restoring the well-being of the planet and all of its inhabitants. So I'll leave it at that for today.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and we look forward to your wisdom and experience, in sharing the all the wonderful case studies which you have, really came across, and we'll be, learning a lot in this, all the very, very important topics which you have just highlighted. So we are looking forward for day 2 to really, learn from your wisdom. And finally, I will introduce Mr. Lloyd Halferty and invite him to really let us know where he was born and what he has done up until now in 5 minutes. A challenging assignment for Mr. Lloyd Halferty.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be counting my entire history in 5 minutes. Thank you, Mufadal. So yeah, I am Lloyd Halferty, the CED, or the Chief Ecosystem Director of Energime University, also as a Program Development Director, Sustainable Society Consultant. So I am in Canada, not in Manhattan where Bill is, but of course we are a private company as well as education focused, but really education to empower global populations, of course, to reestablish this sustainable balance to their local environments. So we've been doing this work. I've been involved with Energime for quite a while, but most of my work actually is done through the lens of what we call the We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization. So that organization is already a partnership. So we very much focus on partnerships through Energime University. So one of my tasks is actually to leverage that international civil society organization in order to develop the local partnerships in all of the local communities worldwide, which is what I've been working with Stephanie and Angela and others through the Global Unity Network to do. So we are developing what we're now calling interfaith neighborhood and academic and interfaith partnership templates. So we have a 7-sector template right now that we've been using. It was originally developed through Drawdown Markham, which I'm also involved with as our local civil society organization. So we have the 7-sector template for what we call the INBCs, where we are building this global network of basically country chapters of this Unity network. We have our chapter here in Toronto as a basis, but we are developing the global network so that we can really identify all of the important leaders in the local communities that can assist us as we move forward with the delivery of the education and training programs as Energime University develops their overarching program and wants to deliver to the local level. We want to identify all of the various sectors, so the 7 sectors in each community, in each local community worldwide, that has the team ready and able to just go when we're ready to go. But We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island is really what we've been seeking. Our mandate is to deliver what we call life value peace education, where we, of course, we value life as the #1 objective of what we need to be focused on. It's not money. It's not just people. It's life that we need to protect on this planet. So people and planet. Global Cooperation Day, which was the original partnership with Energime University, was focused on the two most important things in our in the context of how we need to interact, and that is people and planet, people in the environment. So we intend to deliver the life value peace education through what we call life learning gardens, which we now call Unity Gardens. So we have identified 5 different types of life learning gardens, again called Unity Gardens. So 5 different configurations of what we call open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure. So basically gardens, gardens, which are food gardens, specifically what we call climate smart victory gardens, which are delivered by an organization called the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities. So that's one of them. And then there's a victory forests, which is basically similar to a CSV garden, but it's basically a food forest, a 3D polyculture food forest, but as a life learning garden. And then we have 3 others, and one of which is the same format that Mufaddal has been promoting, this Wheel of Life Farm School, which is again an open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solution. It is a closed loop farm system developed by one of our colleagues that we met through Bill and Energime University, Dr. Paul Olivier, who's in Vietnam right now, although he's an American. He has developed a model for a self-sustaining closed loop carbon sequestering farm system that can be basically set up anywhere in the world. And we are hoping to, of course, demonstrate those solutions. Mufaddal is ideally going to be helping us to do that. But we have other solutions. We have a kitchen solution, climate smart kitchens, also serving as a life learning garden as well. But of course, it's not designed for producing the food. It's designed to teach youth, especially this next generation, about how to prepare, how to cook, how to really manage the food that they're producing in their local communities in a way that is so they're utilizing the wastes, especially from those kitchens, in the highest possible value-added way that also helps to regenerate and produce more food for our own local consumptions. So we have this network that we are developing. I've been working with Stephanie, but I wanted to mention today, especially about Re-Energime Global Corporation for the Island and the life value peace education, because our message, and this group actually was created back in 2018, this organization, and the mission, right, basically was to transform the human mindset. And that was the biggest mission we have, to transform our relationships, especially from one that's basically focused on conflict and competition, which is the dominant mindset now, especially in business, to one focused on peace and cooperation. So the idea was that we're doing education toward what we call awakening dreamers. So dreamers being our youth, being able to dream and empowering them to dream, and then also empowering them to take action and achieve their dreams. So we have one project within the Global Unity Network called the Dream Boards in Local Communities project, where we want to work with people that can undertake, for instance, 3D virtual reality environments. So this metaverse concept, where we can actually start imagining our future in these 3D spaces, like in a game, right? Where we can imagine what the future might look like for our own communities. So we can take our own communities, use technologies like LiDAR, for instance, to map what our own communities look like today, put that map into a 3D environment, a virtual environment, and teach our youth about how to manipulate that 3D virtual environment to create the future sustainable communities they want and they need, and then work to empower them with finance that will allow them to actually implement what they've designed in the virtual reality spaces. So we're doing this through a group called it's called the four. Right now, we have a bunch of nodes in our network, but one of these groups is specifically focused on trying to empower youth to envision a better future. And so there are a number of organizations that we're working with, again, in cooperation with the We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island Organization, but to deliver this concept of lifetime peace education in the context of the Life Learning Gardens. So this is where I've been focusing my effort to develop the networks around the world to really bring people into this conversation about what we really need to do. And we're doing this also through a lens of what we call the interfaith neighborhood and business collaboratives, where recently we've decided that in 2022, one of our projects will be to try to bring together all 2.4 billion Catholics and Christians on Earth to work in partnership with the 2 billion Muslims on this planet. So the two largest faith communities of the planet to come together, to work together for this common goal of it re-educating our youth so they can understand what needs to be done. They can be involved in this grand project of rehabilitating our planet through the planting of these gardens, of these forests, and to the restoration of nature. So this decade as well is very important because it is the UN decade for ecosystem restoration that started last year, or this year, I should say, 2021 to 2030 is this UN decade. So we want to leverage that UN decade to start demonstrating the communities, the community models, and this is where Stephanie comes in with their Maui Aloha project and eco village concepts, where we can develop some eco villages that include these life learning gardens, hopefully all 5 of them, within the context of the eco village, where we can start to deliver in at least some context to show people this is real, we can do this, and we can transform the learning for the youth. Of course, we need to move very quickly in all communities, as many communities as we can. We start locally where we are. So wherever you are, Mufadal, right, in Pakistan, you need to engage with your local school boards, your local universities, colleges, and other schools to start to promote this, as we are doing here with Stephanie, trying to promote it with our local schools. So we're in conversations with York University and University of Waterloo, and trying to develop relationships with the cities, city of Mississauga, city of Toronto, city of Markham, here in the York region where I am, where we try to create relationships, but we're doing it through the lens of this global unity network, where we're trying to bring everybody around the world into this conversation, but's willing to listen at least to the message that we are trying to convey. So I'll end there.
Yeah, I think I consider Canada, as also United Nations like Dubai, and Canada offers us, the best of both worlds. Like if you like Europe, and if you like London, and if you like New York, then Canada offers you both, best of both. And very, very fortunately, we have a wonderful Prime Minister who is also very, very compassionate and dynamic leader. who has welcomed 25,000 Syrian refugees. And that was a starting point of really developing this Wheel of Life farm school communities, because we want to really provided them, comfortable life. But then, in addition to that 25,000 refugees, I was offered a much more challenging assignment in Africa. So instead of coming to Toronto to take care of the 25,000 refugees, I decided to go to Africa. And by taking up that challenging assignment, today I am a gold and diamond miner also. So when you have a larger vision of accomplishing something, very, very useful for everyone living on the planet Earth, then I think all these things becomes reality. So I would definitely love to set up a facility in Canada, in Markham. And one of the places I like in Markham is York University is trying to build a campus over there in Markham. And maybe we can build this 700 home community, Wheel of Life farm school community there, just to demonstrate. It's a wonderful place. I think everybody loves to come to Canada. And Canada has been, really a cleaner, much more cleaner country as compared to United States. And, I enjoyed my life in Canada during my stay in United States, because I was in Detroit and it was just for me to cross the tunnel to go to wonderful Windsor and, enjoy my good meals and come back with a full tank of 99 cents a gallon. So we would like to return back to that same wonderful life, which we have enjoyed, Professor Susinski, myself, and, Lloyd has enjoyed when we were young. So now we want to return the same life back to our children. So we would definitely love to do a project there in Canada. And one of the gentlemen, I think, which is present today is Mr. Papoor. And if Mr. Papoor would like to introduce himself, we would love to hear from him and then conclude, the session for the day today. Mr. Papoor, the floor is yours.
Yes, it was a nice presentation by all of you. Now I understood what you guys are doing. Basically, I'm a project manager on clean energy projects. I just retired and I'm semi-retired now, doing consulting on nuclear projects. So basically on environments, we do follow a lot of regulatory requirements. And I'm also the chair of the Mississauga Professional Engineers Group, about 8,000 people. Basically we invite a lot of speakers to our chapter to talk about all the, from the environment to clean energy to manufacturing, because ours is very diversified engineers in different branches. And that's all I can say. I'm very happy to see. I was looking at your website. It's pretty good. The university, what you guys doing. And I don't know what plans you have in Canada. Maybe Lloyd has a lot of plans in Canada. So I'll talk to him later on that.
Well, I actually would like to connect with you after this and perhaps have a discussion, because it would be good if we could have at some point a presentation actually of the Global Unity Network, as I actually do every Thursday. So we do an online virtual presentation. I do every week, this Indigenous Global Unity Summit. I've never done it live, so for an actual in-person audience, and I don't know if that's anything you do or if you're still just doing Zoom calls. But you have a membership of engineers, these 8,000 members, you say. Perhaps there's an opportunity for me to actually deliver directly to them, to your membership at some point in the future. But I don't know, Papoor, if you've ever been on one of our calls before, the IGU Summit that takes place every Thursday morning at 11. So I will connect after this. I'm going to put my contact information into the chat so you can connect with me directly. I put a link in there to the We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island. If you can just press the three dots and save chat in the bottom corner of the Zoom window. And so that we can connect, if you have WhatsApp especially as well. Let's have a conversation, because I don't know where you said Mississauga. If you are in Mississauga, that would probably be a good thing as well, because we have another associate in Mississauga. His name is Mark. So he's developing a system of what we call PAGI goals. So this payments for ecosystem restoration, or payments for ecosystem services, bundled together with another payment system. And so we're wanting to do a pilot project this coming summer, well, I guess 2022, where we're planting the trees of peace and reconciliation across countries in Africa, Asia, and here in Canada, in local communities. As we develop our network, this is one of our tasks, is actually to foster the global cooperation mentality through these planting of trees of peace and reconciliation, which serve actually as sacred spaces in our local communities, where people can come together actually to have conversations among those members of the community that we've identified as members of the Interfaith Neighborhood Business Collaborative. But they'll put aside all the politics, they'll put aside all of their differences, come together in these sacred spaces to have a conversation around solutions. And so this is actually one of the main work that I've been doing through the We Energime Global Cooperation Turtle Island organization, is the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation, which are twinned among communities. Actually, we say they can be twinned, they can be trinned, they can be quadrinned, they can be quintinned, so that we can bring these communities together in conversation across cultures. So one of the communities we're talking to is actually the city of Mississauga right now. And we're hoping that the city of Mississauga will go ahead and take part in one of these ceremonies, perhaps with planting a tree of peace and reconciliation in Mississauga, perhaps at the if we're lucky, at the city hall, at the mayor's office, where we plant the tree at the mayor's office, and that tree will be twinned, for instance, with a tree in Karachi, and a tree in, let's say, a community in Sierra Leone, and a community in Kenya, and another tree in Hawaii, for instance. So we could have multiple trees that are planted on the same day that have meaning to the local people and become sacred spaces. So this is actually the process where we're bringing together the local communities to create those partnerships that we can then work with those partners to help them to become engaged in the Energime University Sustainable Planet learning programs in the subsequent stages, once we've developed those interfaith neighborhood and business collaboratives in the local communities at the local level.
So, Mr.
Who's going to finance your
Papoor,
projects?
I would invite Mr. Papoor, to be probably present, his profile and 8,000 engineers, which he has just mentioned, because I'm definitely interested in engaging all the IITians in India to be part of our program. And our target is basically that engineering professors, inventors, innovators should at least be a billionaire in 53 months. And all the engineers, fellow engineers like myself, our program is interested in transforming them into a millionaire in 53 months. So they have the ability and they have the resources to really practice their discipline, in the way they want to do it. So they will be innovators, developers, and they will not be just working for one multinational like I did for 40 years and like all of us did, in our life for one or two organizations. But then when they are the entrepreneurs, they will be actually leading, at least one engineer should be leading a 700 home Sam's Wheel of Life Farm School community, which will assure that they will become a millionaire in 53 months. So we would love to have your presentation in one of these days, Mr. Papoor, Engineer Papoor, Professor Papoor, so we know you better, and then we want to engage all the IITians from India into our program.
And what I wanted to mention as well is that the approach we're taking through these INBCs, the Interfaith Neighborhood Business Collaboratives, is to the local Interfaith Neighborhood Business Collaborative is designed to support especially the female and feminist, what we call female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs. So those local people who will create a business around the solution. So the solution is a food system, a local regenerative food production system. So although we are a school, basically, we're delivering only these classrooms through educating people on how to actually build them. So we don't go into their communities to do it for them. We educate them on how to build these solutions themselves and provide them with access to the financing, the different tools they need, resources they need, so they can build those themselves. But then we also, through the network, as we create the local community interfaith neighborhood business collaboratives, those interfaith neighborhood business collaboratives are designed to support those entrepreneurs, what we'll call the humanitarian entrepreneurs, who are actually running those local community-based businesses. So our main goal is actually to create the support networks to ensure those local community entrepreneurs are successful in their endeavors to implement the actual solutions. So putting in place the networks that will allow them to thrive as a business person in their local community. So they're successful. We want to ensure that they are successful in implementing their business, because they're supported by every sector of the local community. They're supported by the local government, they're supported by the local schools, they're supported by the local NGOs, they're supported by other businesses in their own local communities. And the people in their local communities know about them, so we're going to promote them, and we're going to make sure that they are successful entrepreneurs in their local communities.
And I chirp in at this point. It is 2:00.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we pick this up tomorrow? We'll have other people presenting tomorrow and Tuesday, which will be nice.
Wonderful.
But I think this was a successful first recording, and you can get it out to your networks, and that's great.
Wonderful.
And look forward to talking to everyone tomorrow.
Yes,
Thank you very much, Bill.
Yep, and I think everyone we will be sharing the recording of this particular session, and then collectively we will be building up day 2 agenda, which Stephanie will share with us, and I will be actually sharing that whole second day agenda today, along with the recording of this particular meeting, so people know what happened in the day 1 and what they expect on day 2 of the event.
All right. Thank you, Mufadal. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Papoor.
Thanks,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Have a wonderful day.
Wonderful day.
Thank you,
See you
everybody.
tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be well.
Bye-bye.